Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from. So, as a word of caution, usually by the time parents come to me asking for help, their teen already wants nothing to do with them. So, I can tell you from lots of experience that it's a lot easier to foster that child parent relationship when your kid is little than by the time they're a teenager and they don't ever want to spend any time at home. So, we're going to go over 6 practical ways to foster that child parent relationship and not fall into the peer-centered relationship. Now, if you're new here, I'm Tanya Johnson. I'm the founder of Helping Hearts Homeschool, and I work alongside parents and youth leaders who are helping build that foundation for the next generation. I went to a ministry college, and so I had the privilege while I was getting my degree in secondary education that I was also able to intern, if you will, for the largest Baptist youth group in the entire country. And I can tell you, I learned a lot more in the field than I did in a classroom, but I definitely appreciate the knowledge that I got from both sides. Now, in addition to homeschooling my own daughter, I work in various mentorship programs and just different groups for at-risk youth. And my motto is, the world is fighting for the hearts of our kids, so we have to fight that much harder. My goal is to give you a lot of tools that you can add to your toolkit so you can fight just as hard for the little ones in your life. Now, I want to preface this session by saying this is not to hate on youth groups or sporting events or clubs or friends or any of that. In fact, I like all of those things, and I think done right, they can benefit our kids tremendously. What I dislike is when any of those things take the place of a parent. And unfortunately, in the American family, it is very common to have the peer-centered relationship versus the parent-centered relationship when it comes to our kids and our teenagers. Now, kids who are going to public school, typically the replacement I see are sports and academic clubs. And then kids that go to Christian school or homeschool, that replacement becomes the youth group. Now, again, this is not to hate on any one of those things, but in the teenage years, it is very easy to lose the heart of our kids. And that is something that I feel like if you are mindful of it and you know what to watch out for, it's a little bit harder for Satan to get them. So we're going to talk about 6 very practical ways that you can keep the heart of your kids when they're young. But I do want to say that this does not take the place of praying for them. Praying for our kids, going to God as an advocate on their behalf is definitely the highest calling we have as a parent. That's by far the most important job that we have. These 6 things are just things that we can add in addition to praying for our kids that are very practical in the day-to-day life that we're living. Now, before I get started, I do want to recommend a book to you guys. It's called Hold On to Your Kids: Why Parents Matter More Than Peers. It is by Gordon Newfold and Gabor Mate, I believe is how you say their names. I'm going to have it linked down in the show notes, down in the description area. You can click on the show notes and you can flip over and see that for yourself. Okay, 6 ways to keep that relationship with your child front and center and not lose their heart to their friends. Number 1 is just simply do daily devotions with them. I know that this is a given. If you're here, more than likely you're a Christian, you're already doing this. However, I can tell you again, as they're little, it's cute and fun to do little devotionals. It takes like 10 minutes. As they get older, it's a little bit more time consuming. You get a little bit more pushback sometimes. And sometimes their questions are a little intimidating because it's stuff that you may not 100% know. So you've got to put a little bit more work in. And the older they get, especially into those teenage years, the more tempting, maybe the word is to go completely hands off when it comes to devotions and honestly everything else that they're doing independently. But that is when they need us to be hands-on the most. So what I did is I put together a free guide on how to do devotions for any age, how to make them fun, how to make them exciting, how to make your teenager actually want to sit down and read the Bible with you. And I'll give you a hint, it's because you're doing more than just reading the Bible. So if you flip over to the show notes, they are linked down in the description area. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching it as part of a summit, they're linked somewhere around this video, or you can reach out to me at Helping Hearts Homeschool and get the link directly. But that is going to walk you through really how to keep those devotions alive throughout their entire childhood up through the time that they leave your house. Number 2 is invite friends over to your house. Now, when I say friends, I'm meaning friends for your kids. Like attracts like. So if you are connecting them with kids from families who are also family-centered, then that's just going to reinforce the values that you have in your own life when it comes to your family. Now, as my daughter gets older, I would much rather her be surrounded by friends who are pushing her to the family and uplifting the family because they have the same values in their home than having a group of friends who are constantly wanting to take away from the family, not cool to hang out with your family, not fun to go to the mall with mom. Like everything has to be isolated. They don't want to do anything with their parents. So again, like attracts like. Start cultivating those friendships with your kids now. And as a bonus, you'll get some really cool mom friends out of it as well. Number 3 is be involved in their activities. Now, this one is going to be a little bit more of an unpopular opinion, and that's fine. So be involved in your kid's life, period. So when it comes to activities, whether that is a sports team, go volunteer. Youth group, go volunteer. Academic club, go volunteer. A group like Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, something like that, go volunteer. Whatever their interests and passions are, make that a priority of yours as well, at least in this season, and become part of their life. So yes, let them socialize, let them go have fun, let them do all of the peer related things, but don't take yourself out of the equation. There's no reason that they cannot have a lot of fun and a lot of friends with you also having fun with them and their friends alongside. Now, yes, you're going to have to go through background checks and all of the fun things to get to work in these things, but it is well worth it, I promise you. This is something that I have encouraged parents to do over the years. Without fail, the ones that are hands-on and involved with their kids' activities have a much better relationship with their kids than the ones who just hand them off to another adult or to another organization. Now, if you have more than one kid, that means you're probably going to have to divide and conquer. Again, I'm not saying you have to be at everything for every child, but I will also caution you at this point not to overbook your and your family's schedule, because if you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off and you never have any family time, or your kid is always away from you, that is how Satan breaks up the family. And now more than ever, he's attacking the family because he wants the next generation. Satan knows that the more he can break up the family and disconnect the family, the better chance he has to get our kids. Now, number 4 ties along with that very well, and that is limit the activities that exclude the parents. Now, again, I know this is an unpopular opinion, and that is totally fine. I am willing to be unpopular in order to save my daughter from a lot of heartache down the road. No middle school or high school kid should be spending 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day away from their family. And before you say, Tanya, that's a stretch, no kid spends that much time. Want to bet? No, they do. And I can tell you story and story and story. But one that comes to mind is a mom that came to me about 3 years ago now. Her daughter is just about to turn 18, so she would have been 15 at the time. So about 3 years ago, and she came to me because the mom and the daughter fought constantly. The dad and the daughter had no relationship because he spent all of his time yelling at the daughter for not respecting her mom. But then when I dove a little deeper, this is what that child's schedule looked like. She went to a Christian school, she was involved in sports, and she also had a very high academic load with different like clubs and stuff. She would leave her house at 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday through Friday. She did something before school, I don't remember what it was. And then school would get out at 3:30. She had practice at 4:30, so she would just hang around until practice started. And then she would not get home till 6, 7, 8 o'clock, depending on the night, who was giving her a ride, that kind of stuff. She would come home, grab dinner, eat it downstairs in her bedroom while she was doing her homework, go to bed, get up, and repeat the next day. So Monday through Friday, she's having little to no contact at all with her parents. Wednesday nights were the only nights that she didn't have practice because it was a Christian school. But she came straight home, grabbed a bite to eat downstairs in her bedroom while she was doing homework, and then they went off to youth group. Saturday, she either had a game at night or she had youth group at night, depending on what week it was. Typically, they leave their house around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so she'd be at home with her family from 8, 9 o'clock whenever she woke up till 2, 3 when they were walking out the door. Now, is that priority spent family time? No, it was time getting ready to go to the game, getting ready to go to the youth event, catching up on sleep, watching TV, lounging around, because the kid was exhausted, and I don't blame her. They would come home very, very late on Saturday night, pretty much go straight to bed. Sunday morning, they'd be up. She had youth group from about 9 to noon. If she wasn't in youth group, she was in the church service, but sitting with her friends, not sitting with her parents. And then they would go home, and from about 1:30, whenever they got home, had lunch, until 7, 8 o'clock that night, that was family-ish time, but they spent most of the time watching TV, or she was playing games on her game system that she was completely addicted to when she was not at school. So out of all of that, there are 168 hours in a week. I take out 8 hours for sleep per day. I know it's a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the kid. Taking out 8 hours of sleep, you have 112 left. That kid was spending less than 15 hours with her family per week. She could not be gone from her home enough. Everything that she could find to do, she did it because she didn't want to be home. She is now almost 18. Now, keep in mind, I was asked for help, so I did voice my opinion on this. I told the parents that I would take her out of some of her activities and prioritize the family. They talked to her about it. She completely flipped out, did not want to stop doing sports, any of that stuff, which of course, that did not surprise me at all. They chose to let her keep doing all of that, and that's their right. That's their child. I was just brought in as a consultant, basically. I don't take any hard feelings, and people do not take my advice. I did recommend this book to the family, and I was told, oh, I'm not a reader. I don't think they ever read the book. And again, that's their choice. The daughter's now 18, has no relationship at all with her parents. She's gone every waking minute of every day that she possibly can be. She cannot wait to graduate, get out of her parents' house, and never come back again. Now, again, you might say, well, Tanya, that's an extreme, except it's not. In the American home, that is actually more and more common, that kids are growing up completely isolated from their parents, consumed with their friends, their sports, their youth groups, all of those things. And by the time they leave at 18, they cannot get out fast enough, and they don't turn back until they're in their 20s, 30s, having their own families, and they realize, oh, I missed that window with my parents. So again, I would just limit the activities that don't include you to make sure you can focus on that parent-child relationship before they're out of your house, and again, not looking back. And again, that includes church. If you are at a church that excludes you from youth activities, trips, functions, that kind of stuff, honestly, I'd find another church, or I would have a frank conversation with your kid and not let them be involved near as much as a lot of the other kids are. Now, before you do an extreme, I would talk to the youth pastor, maybe bring them the book like, hey, have you read this? You probably should, but tell them your feelings on it. More often than not, they're going to let you be involved. Like, rarely have I met a youth pastor who's like, oh, no, parents can't be involved in this youth group. Usually it's just parents aren't asking and they don't even know how to ask. Now, if you're watching this and you are a youth leader, whether you're senior high, junior high, however young or old, and you're not sure how to engage your parents, check out the session I did last week. It is linked down in the show notes as well. And I talk about how, as a KidMin leader or a youth group leader, how to engage your parents and encourage them to be part of your programs. Now, again, easier said than done. There are going to be some learning curves along the way, but our job as youth leaders are to connect those kids with their families and with their parents, not to replace them. And then switching gears back to speaking to you as a parent now, like I said, if you get pushback on that, then I would recommend either finding a new church that does let you be involved in the youth group, or not letting your child be involved in all of the activities and all of the functions. You are the one that God called to be that kid's spiritual leader, not the church. You are not called to hand them off to the church. You are called to walk with them in the church. Now, on the same note, I would be a hypocrite not to address myself or moms in general. That also means we need to limit the activities that exclude our kids. We cannot be preaching that we need to be involved in the stuff that, they're involved in, if we're taking every moment that we can to ditch our kids and go do stuff for us. Now, I'm not saying you can't ever do anything for you. I do believe you need to have your own cup filled. I believe you cannot pour from an empty cup. I think you do need to have friends. I'm not saying that you isolate yourself and you never do anything outside of your family. But this is not the season for us to be consumed with all of our own interests and passions and friends and careers and all that stuff. This is a season for us to prioritize our family. There will come a time when we have all the time for all the friends and social events and all the things that are kid-free. Right now, that is not the time when we chose to have children. So now it's our duty to raise those kids and prioritize them and their well-being. But good news, that does lead me into number 5, and that is make your home fun. So make your home the home to come to. Make your home the home that all your kids' friends want to hang out at, that all your kids' friends and parents want to hang out at. And I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money for this. Get some board games, get some craft supplies, get some slime supplies. Just open your home to people. Make it the fun house. We're in that season right now. I can tell you it's worth it, but it's a little chaotic. I kind of feel like my house is never clean at this point. There's always a corner that has slime items in it, or there's a corner that has a whole bunch of library books that kids are looking through and doing art projects. At any moment on top of my fridge, there's random snacks left over from the last event that we did at our house. But I've also got to make a lot of really good mom friends that have the same values that my family and I have. So I've been able to build a community in the community that I live in of moms and kids that think very similar to my family, to where I love their kids hanging out with my kid. I love getting to sit and talk with the parents. So our home is the fun home, but that also means that we get to foster all of those relationships with all of those people. So it definitely benefits me as the mom just as much as it's benefiting my daughter. And again, while yes, it is a bit messy the season that we're going through, I know that one day I'm going to long for this mess. So today I'm going to choose to enjoy it. And then number 6 is have an open conversation policy. Now, this is probably the most important one outside of, we talked about praying for your kids before we started. And possibly the daily devotions, I would say, is probably higher than this one. But as far as the other ones, this would probably be the most important. And this, simply stated, is make it a rule to never get mad, punish, shame, anything like that to your kid when they come with you with a question or a topic, no matter how colorful it might be. And my daughter's only 9. I can tell you from her, I've already gotten some colorful questions. Before I got married, I had a 15-year-old that I had guardianship of, and I can tell you I had a lot of colorful questions from her throughout the 3 years that she was here. And then I can't count the amount of colorful questions I've had from other teenagers that were just a little too embarrassed to ask their mom. Now, we pointed them back to their mom. We helped them build that relationship to be comfortable asking those kind of questions. But you're going to get some just very uncomfortable topics that they want to talk to you about. Make that a normal, lighthearted thing as much as you can. You would rather them come to you with the hard questions than go to their friends or even another adult. And part of fostering that when they're little is allowing them to question things. Never should they be getting in trouble because they're not blindly obeying you. This is something that we've had to work really hard with my daughter, but then we've also had to redirect other adults in her life to let them know, hey, she's not going to get in trouble for not blindly obeying. We teach her critical thinking. We teach her how to question. Now, we might need to redirect. How do you say this in a little bit more respectful tone? How do you ask this a little bit more respectfully? And that is very, very hard for me. I have to remind myself to have the patience, take the breath, because sometimes it is very taxing when you really are trying to get them to do something and they are questioning you on it. But teaching them to question things and question appropriately will help them navigate a lot of more serious relationships in the future, to where they're not, just to bluntly say it, in the church world that we live in right now, there's a lot of abuse that has come out from the past. I feel like a lot of that could have been circumvented had the kids been allowed to question. And I can tell you, my daughter, if it's at all in my power, will not be one of those statistics. Yes, she'll be involved in youth group. I will also be involved in youth group. Yes, we still go to church. Yes, we still have relationships with youth pastors and different things like that. But never is she taught that they are basically God. Never is she taught she's not allowed to question those people. We question, we use critical thinking, and we make sure that we are following God and following the Bible, not following a man. But that starts with us in the home. If they're not allowed to question us and they get in trouble every single time that we feel like they're not obeying as quickly as we want them to, that's going to carry over into every other authority in their life. And that could lead to a host of things, but abuse being the worst one. Now, like I end most of my sessions, I want to give you 3 action steps that you can turn around and implement immediately as soon as we are done here. The first one is I just want you to take inventory of your home. Are you living in a home where your children are consumed with their peers? Or are you living in a home where the child-parent relationship is front and center? And yes, it is possible to have more than one kid and be in different stages. Number 2, I want you to take one thing that we talked about and implement that in your life. Now, I say one thing because if you try to do everything, it's going to lead to overwhelm. Start with one, master it, add on another one until you are doing all 6 things. And then the third thing is plan a family night for sometime in the next 7 to 10 days. And just to be blunt, if you don't have any nights free in the next 7 to 10 days, you're doing too much. Cancel something, focus on the family. This does not have to cost you a lot of money. I put together a free little PDF for you with 25 really fun family ideas that'll work for all different ages. Go over to the show notes, download that. It's completely free. And actually, I misspoke. They're not free. They're very cheap. There's a handful of free. There's a handful of like $20 and under. So there's a lot of really good ideas that'll fit any type of budget. Go over there, download that, implement one of them. Try to make that a habit once a month and then work up to once a week. Now, what you don't want to do is go to a movie, sit down and watch a movie, go somewhere there's loud music. The point of this is to get somewhere and do something that you can have conversation. So go mini golfing, go to any number of small places like that, have a game night at your house, do a family like cooking night, something that fosters the conversation to eventually rebuild that relationship if it's not there, or strengthen it if it's there but it's fading. So this session is not as fun of a session as the ones that I normally film. It's a little bit heavier topic, but I do feel that it's necessary, especially in the day and age that we live in. So this is Tanya Johnson with Helping Hearts Homeschool, where I help you fight the world for the hearts of your kids, and I will see y'all next week.